So in this video, we will show to you the consolidated data results of the core competencies of an internal auditor. So in the next slides, we will show to you the ranking of the core competencies of an internal auditor that starts with general competencies, knowledge, and followed by the behavioral, technical skills, and to be followed by the results of the audit tools and techniques.
General competencies consist of skills that are essential to perform certain tasks. The general competencies presented in the graph are relevant to effectively and accurately deliver the necessary work that an internal auditor must do in the organization. On the graph presented, the general competencies that rank as the top 5 based on their importance are: first, accounting framework tools techniques; second, problem identification and solution skills; third, industry, regulatory, and standard changes; fourth, ability to promote value of internal audit; and fifth, or the last one, is the IT or ICT frameworks, tools, and techniques. While the general competency that rank as the least important includes change management skills and also cultural fluency and foreign language skills. Although these skills rank as the least important, still they are necessary competencies that help an internal auditor to perform well in his or her assigned position in the organization. Going back to our top 5, we have the accounting frameworks, tools, techniques. These competency rank as the most important. As an internal auditor, it is relevant to understand the necessary accounting frameworks, tools, and techniques, since they serve as a guide for auditors in issuing a clean audit opinion for the organization. Possessing this general competency, the internal auditor can accurately verify the work done by the accountants in making the necessary financial statements. Next is the problem identification and solution skills. This general competency is necessary for internal auditors since they usually encounter complex problems on a daily basis, like detecting operational errors and providing necessary solutions to control and prevent the error to occur in the future. Problems like this requires out-of-the-box thinking in order to come up with an effective and efficient solution. So the third and fourth general competencies that got the highest rank include industry, regulatory, and standard changes, and also the fourth one, which is the ability to promote value of internal audit. Internal auditors should assess changes in the industry regulations, professional standards, and regulatory in order to update their knowledge accordingly and provide better auditing services for the company. The ability to promote value of the internal audit function within the organization may impact the resources allocated to the internal audit department. It is important to understand how the internal audit department can add value to the areas of responsibility and the organization as a whole. And the last one, IT or ICT frameworks, tools, and techniques rank as the fifth most important general competency. Information technology plays a vital role for internal auditors to produce a more controlled environment in delivering the auditing process. Possessing this general competency affects the internal auditor and provides guidelines and best practices in evaluating techniques available to effectively perform auditing tasks internally.
This figure shows the areas of knowledge that an auditor should have. Knowledge for specific areas is very important for any professionals in order to perform their jobs effectively and efficiently. So based on our survey and interview with internal auditors, we identified the ranking of different areas of knowledge that an internal auditor should possess. As shown in the figure above, knowledge on internal audit standard, auditing, fraud awareness, ethics, technical knowledge for the industry ranked the top 5. An internal auditor primarily deals with auditing the overall performance of the organization and ideally reports to the board of directors if possible and to the management and owners if necessary. Their job range from auditing the financial, operations, compliance, and other aspects as needed. They basically provide information that helps the management in the process of decision making as well as implementation of plans and strategy and assessment of how effective the strategy is. This must be why knowledge on internal audit standard, auditing, fraud awareness, ethics, technical knowledge for the industry rank as the top necessary areas of knowledge that an internal auditor should have. On the other hand, marketing ranked the lowest in the area of knowledge that an internal auditor should possess. However, this doesn't mean that an auditor should not have any idea as to what is marketing is in the business.
There are a lot of competencies that an internal auditor should possess in order to perform all the responsibilities in an effective and efficient manner. So one of the important competencies that an internal auditor should possess are behavioral skills. Behavioral skills boost one's confidence and help in becoming a better individual, personally and professionally. These skills are very important since it makes a person more confident in communicating with other people, especially with his or her work teams. If an internal auditor possesses a positive behavior, then it will be easier to make the work more productive and successful. Based on the survey that we have done with the different internal auditors, we have identified the ranking of the different behavioral skills of an internal auditor. Based on the figure presented or the graph presented, the behavioral skills that rank in the top 5 are: first, we have objectivity; second, communication; third, judgment; fourth, confidentiality; and the top 5 is governance and ethics sensitivity. So first in the ranking is we have objectivity. Objectivity is also an important skill to possess by an internal auditor, as it is a manner of believing one's work and should have an impartial and unbiased attitude. Also, in order to perform the duties and responsibilities of an internal auditor objectively, he or she should avoid conflict of interest. The top 2 or the second in the ranking is communication. Communication is very essential in everything that we do, especially at work, so that we can understand the people around us and remove misunderstanding and create clarity of thoughts. Third in the ranking is judgment. Judgment is one of the key drivers in making decisions. It is an essential skill to make wiser decisions to produce desired outcomes. Fourth in the ranking is confidentiality. Confidentiality builds trust between people. that leads to the productivity and success of a business. The fifth in the ranking, or the top 5 in the ranking, is ethics. Ethics is considered the heart of corporate governance. It is important because it guides people to make wise decisions and actions that has a positive impact to the firm. On the other hand, the behavioral skills that rank in the lowest is the change catalyst. However, it does not mean that an auditor should not possess this kind of skills. Change catalyst is also an essential skill in becoming a competent internal auditor, in a way that this skill is an attribute needed to motivate and inspire others. As an internal auditor, he or she should be a change catalyst, that someone who helps other people, guides other people, and someone that understands that change is part of life and part of being a competitive internal auditor. So in conclusion, all the skills that I have presented are essential in order to become a competent internal auditor and in order to make the work more effective and efficient.
Next is the technical skills. Internal auditing is playing an increasingly important role within an organization. The growing demand for internal auditors as business and corporate governance partners to organizational management places a larger burden on internal audit managers in respect of the competence and skill requirements they need in order to meet their increasingly diverse and divergent responsibilities. In this area, technical skills, it is one where new internal auditors do well. Based on our survey and interview with the internal auditors and some CPAs, we're able to determine the ranking of different areas in the technical skills that an internal auditor must have. Figure 3 presents that understanding the business rank as the highest among the area in the technical skills because the auditor must obtain a sufficient understanding of the entity and its environment, including its internal control, to assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to error or fraud, and to design the nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures. Next is the risk analysis and control assessment techniques, in which it helps identify high-risk situations and determine prevention and mitigation measures to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. Followed by the financial analysis tools and techniques, in which it is a process of analyzing a company's financial statement for decision-making process. Next is the identifying types of control and the problem-solving tools and techniques. However, even if these areas in the technical skills rank in the highest, it does not mean that those areas who rank in the middle or in the lower is not important. All of the areas in the technical skills are important, but those 3 areas I mentioned earlier are the mostly used by the current internal auditor we interviewed. Typically, they are up to date with the various technical areas. As a result, they have a good understanding of the various accounting and auditing standards, as well as familiarity with a range of internal audit topics, including risk-based auditing, types of control, sampling, and time management.
Audit tools and techniques. Based on the responses that we have gathered from the internal auditors, the audit tools and techniques that are currently used by the 4 internal auditors includes the other electronic communication, analytical review, computer-assisted audit technique, control self-assessment, and continuous real-time auditing. These audit tools and techniques are currently used by the internal auditors in performing audit engagement. According to them, these are relevant audit tools and techniques that help internal auditors in providing an independent assurance that the organization risk management, governance, and internal control processes are operating effectively. Mostly, the internal auditors that are interviewed are working as an auditor in an organization for less than 5 years, and there are also some audit tools and techniques that are not being used by the internal auditor, but still they are able to come up with an audit outcome that is accurate and reliable. Thus, the internal auditor can still make an audit which is effective and efficient without using some of the audit tools and techniques.
Based on the responses of our interviewees of the 2 questions given in the questionnaire, I can really say that the competencies are very essential for an internal auditor. Those competencies are very essential to perform the job responsibilities in an effective and efficient manner. Through having these competencies, it can really benefit not just you as an internal auditor, but also the staff and management you're working with. Furthermore, having those competencies is helpful in maintaining the quality of internal audit and helps improve the processes and operations of the company. So what makes an internal auditor competent? The core competencies that I've mentioned in the survey questionnaire given to us makes an internal auditor a competent one. If an auditor possesses these competencies, he or she will become a competent one. Those core competencies are essential to perform all the responsibilities in order to become productive. Through having these competencies, an internal auditor will make his job more efficient and effective that can really add value to a firm or a company. So am I competent enough to become an internal auditor? Yes, for me, I am competent enough to become an internal auditor in the future. But as for now, I can say that I really need more experience to become a competent internal auditor. I still need to learn a lot to become a competent one. As we all know that experience will let us learn and make us more competitive and successful in the future. Yes, the theories that we learn in school is very helpful, but this knowledge can be expanded or can be broadened if I will be exposed to the real world of internal auditing. If I will be exposed to the real world, it will enhance my knowledge and skills and will be able to learn and adapt those competencies needed in order to become a competent internal auditor in the future.
As of this moment, I can say that I am not competent enough to become an internal auditor in the future. Just by merely listening to the response of the internal auditor that I have interviewed, I realized that there are a lot of core competencies that I still need to learn, master, and possess to become competent. I need to widen my knowledge on the different aspects of accounting, information technology, laws, and government regulation to provide a reliable, effective, and efficient audit outcome. Being an internal audit entails working with other employees in the organization. I need to improve my communication and leadership skills and adhere to the general principles of being a competent internal auditor in the organization. I think the thing that makes me a competent internal auditor is that I have knowledge about the use of information technology. In the auditing aspect of the business world, knowledge with regards to information technology is essential.
Am I competent enough to become an internal auditor in the future? For me, I can say that I am a competent internal auditor in the future because I will be engaged in the field of work in auditing after I graduate in college, and also by the help of my knowledge or learnings about the standards and processes of auditing that I am learning now. Knowledge is not enough able to say that I am competent internal auditor, but all of those competencies of internal auditor must possess in me in order for me to say that I am competent enough. Today, the internal auditing profession is about more than being an investigator. These roles add real value to the business. Doing so, it makes me a more well-rounded internal auditing professional, and it also helps me realize that automation is not something to fear. In fact, by automating the manual task that takes time away from more proactive, value-added, and fulfilling activities, I can become the strategic and insightful internal auditor that my future organization needs. What makes you a competent internal auditor? For me, I can see that the knowledge I learn about auditing and the application of it in the future makes me a competent internal auditor. Knowledge is not enough to make me a competent internal auditor, but also those skills needed in auditing and the rest of the competencies. Not just that, but also my eagerness to continually improve my abilities in auditing also makes me a competent internal auditor. I also need to manage the time effectively and work with the constraint of the position.
To be honest, I think I still have a lot to learn in order to become a competent internal auditor. Theoretical knowledge can be learned at school, but skills will be developed more at work. After graduation, I will be able to have a deeper understanding of the work as I venture into the real world that I only learned theoretically. This will enhance my knowledge and skills to become an competent internal auditor. However, although I cannot say that I am totally competent for being an internal auditor as of now, but I would be if I would continue to learn the competencies needed to become one in the future.